Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about my hot takes for this upcoming season. Definitely some one that are a little bit aggressive there, but I am picking a 9-3 team to make the CFP. I feel pretty confident in that one. I know it's going to make some people very upset, but at the end of the day, I do think that is going to happen this year. Let's get into some best bets though. There are some different games this upcoming weekend, some a little bit more aggressive than others that I'm very interested in, and we'll start with the game that is going on tonight over there in Boulder, Colorado. I like Georgia Tech -4 in this game, and it's one that I've gone a little bit back and forth on because I do think Colorado is a total unknown, and that kind of works in the favor of Deion Sanders, at least it has the past couple of seasons. The way I see this game going is just Georgia Tech able to get the run game going. Maybe it starts a little bit slow to get the game started, and then they just slowly lean on this team. And Colorado just can't quite keep up the physicality level that Georgia Tech can. I think they're going to be able to run the football, slow down this game, and then when you talk about Caden Salter, I think he can make some incredible plays. I can almost promise you he's going to make a couple of mistakes in this game. And I think when you give Georgia Tech a couple of extra possessions, you're going to lose that game 10 times out of 10. So I'm going to go Georgia Tech to at the very least win this game by a touchdown. I do think it could be relatively interesting deep into this game, but I think Georgia Tech has one too many 8-minute, 12-play drives in them for Colorado to overcome this one. This one's a little bit more ambitious, and I'm staying in my home state of Georgia. Georgia beats Marshall by 38.5 points. It is a very aggressive line. Marshall is an entirely new team. There are 60 new players on that roster, and they're talking a little bit reckless going into this one. Now, I don't think it's crazy. I think every college football player should bring a little bit of swagger, bring a little bit of energy in, maybe trash talk just a little bit from time to time, but probably not the best idea when you're going up against this Georgia football team. I think they want to make a statement. I really do. I don't think this game is going to be, they put everything on the line, put everything on tape by any means. I do think they want to show everyone that they're still Georgia. I think there's a lot of doubt around this team, and I think they want to show that they are going to be able to run the football very efficiently this year. I think they're going to run all over Marshall. They probably should run all over Marshall, to be totally fair. But the other part of this that I think is kind of unknown in the national scale is I think they want to know that Ryan Puglisi is ready to jump in for Gunnar Stockton if he were to go down. He's a very willing runner, is not going to be scared of contact. That makes you a little bit worried if you're Kirby Smart and company. So not to say they're going to get Ryan Puglisi out there and have him huck the ball downfield 20 times, just to say they might be a little bit more straight-up offense when he comes into the game, just to know that he can run the straight-up offense with no problem if they had to make that move at some point this year. So I think Georgia's ready to make a statement. I think Kirby Smart is using all of the aggression that they've built up over a season that did not go the way they wanted to a year ago, even though they won the SEC. But at the end of the day, I think they want to make a statement. I think they're going to roll in this game, maybe 65-0. I think it's going to be domination, and Georgia's going to put a lot of people on notice, although it is still Marshall, to be fair. I'm going to pick Alabama -13.5 over Florida State. Way too many people think Alabama is not going to be a good football team. There's too many people on Twitter, in the college football world, in my mind, that are not looking at Alabama the way they should. Ty Simpson's not, a remarkable athletic player. He's not going to make, ridiculous plays like Jalen Milroe did with his legs a year ago. What he is going to distribute the ball. And the reality is, in a Kalen DeBoer offense, if you can hit spots in the passing game, you're going to throw for 4,000 yards and you're going to get national hype. There's no doubt about that. He is going to be able to play within this offense very effectively. I like Florida State and the players that they brought in. It's not going to be ready to roll week one. And obviously, Thomas Castellanos talking a little bit of trash has added just a little bit of fuel to the fire for Alabama. I think they want to make a statement after a year where they didn't look the part. I think they're going to be incredible in this game. I think the offensive line totally dominates the Florida State defensive line. I think Alabama rolls in this one, probably by 21, but I'll take the 13.5 just to be safe. Utah -1.5, not over Utah, over UCLA, excuse me. Utah -5.5 over UCLA. I feel really good about this one. I think UCLA is a good team. I think they will develop into a much better team they are in week 14 than they are in week 1. The biggest mismatch in this game is the Utah offensive line against the UCLA defensive line. I do think the UCLA defensive line has a couple of guys that are interesting. I think the Utah offensive line is absolutely terrifying. I think they're going to roll over people. They're going to be able to run the football, and then you can almost promise that Devin Dampier is going to make a couple of big plays down the field. I think Utah wins this one by probably 14, but I'll take the 5.5 if they're going to give it to me. I don't think UCLA is going to be remotely ready to go in week one, if I'm being totally honest. South Dakota plus 15.5 versus Iowa State. This one's a little bit more spicy, I'll give you that. But I do think South Dakota is a team that can really shorten games, is kind of the biggest piece of this. They returned 2,000-yard rushers from a year ago. They have the ability to shorten this game, make it just a little bit uncomfortable at halftime. And then Iowa State plays good football, is able to win the game, maybe even by 14, and it'd be relatively comfortable at the end of the day, not be as close as the score told you, but they still are able to cover that 15.5. I think South Dakota has enough. I think the travel back from Ireland is going to be really tough for Iowa State to deal with. I just think this is going to be a game that is a little bit sketchy at halftime. You look up and you're watching all the other games, and then Iowa State is tied with South Dakota 10-10 at halftime, and then they have to find a way to claw their way out of it. I tend to believe Iowa State's going to win this game, but if you're going to give me 15.5 points to play around with, I'll take them. Toledo plus 9.5 against Kentucky. I picked this as my upset of the week. I absolutely love this pick. I think Tucker Gleason is going to be ready for this game. He went into Starkville last year and was able to get a win for Toledo. I think Kentucky's able to do some fun things, and they keep talking about the motivated Mark Stoops down there in Lexington. They're not going to be explosive offensively. They're not going to be a dangerous team. They're going to be a team where if you sit down on the run, you're able to stop that. Congratulations, you pretty much won the football game. Now, I do think Zach Calzada can make some things happen for this team. I think they'll have better quarterback play than they've had in the past couple of years. I still don't think it's going to be great. And I think Toledo's offensive firepower is for real. I think they're going to be able to score quite a bit of points in this game, maybe jump out to a 10 or 14-point lead, and then Kentucky's doing their best to just win this game, not just even cover. I think I'll take the 9.5. Frankly, I might have taken Toledo money line, but I'll take the 9.5 just to be a little bit more safe. Clemson LSU over 57.5. This is one I'm a little bit back and forth on because I do think there's a world where neither of these run games really get off the ground. These defenses do a little bit better, especially on the LSU side, than we think they're going to do right now, and maybe they just missed the point. Maybe they're just a little bit rusty after an offseason, but I think these two quarterbacks are special. I think they have the ability to make big-time play after big-time play. I don't think either of these back ends can really match up with the wide receivers on the other side, although Clemson probably has a little bit better of a shot to do that than LSU does. It's going to be a battle, back and forth, and I do think it's going to be one of those things where maybe the Clemson defense makes one or two big plays, but then the Clemson offense cashes in on that, and then LSU's got to push the ball downfield. They make a couple of big-time plays in this game. I think I picked it 34-30 for Clemson, so it's going to be relatively close to this number, but I'm going to take them to cover that 57.5. I think when you have two elite quarterbacks and two defenses that I think are going to be good but might struggle with the speed on the other side of the ball, I'm going to take the offenses to soar in that game. And then a fun one, UNLV Sam Houston over 60.5. A little bit off the beaten path here, but that UNLV defense did not fill me with a lot of confidence a week ago when they faced off, when they played their game. And Sam Houston on the other side, not a great team by any means, absolutely a team that I think is going to get essentially run all over by Jaden Thomas in this game, I believe later tonight actually, but I think Hunter Watson makes a couple of plays with his legs. I think Sam Houston's able to score maybe 20, 24 points in this game, and then UNLV kind of handles the rest, goes for 40 or something in this game, and wins this one relatively comfortably. But I do think there's going to be quite a few points. I think that UNLV defense is a lot of really talented guys that are pretty lost out there, at least as of right now. Maybe they can tighten the screws just a little bit, but I still think Hunter Watson in this Bearcats offense is able to find a couple of openings in this game, and they get to at least 60.5 in this one. A lot of really fun bets in this weekend. I think it's all kind of throwing darts at a dartboard. When you have a week one slate like this one, there's so many great teams. There's also so many unknown teams going into this weekend, but feel pretty confident in that. If I had to pick one that I would take money to the bank on, it's Utah minus 5.5 against UCLA. I do think that's a game where I just lean on Utah aggressively in that one. I think they're going to be able to run the football. I think Devin Dampier is going to be really hard for UCLA to corral, and they're going to be able to make all the plays in the world. Utah wins that one comfortably. But again, I'll take the 5.5, and I think they're going to win that one. It's going to be a great weekend. We will obviously get into all the updates after it, but let's get into one more break here, and then we'll do a little bit of a wrap-up. We'll talk about Tennessee extending Josh Heupel. We'll talk about Ralphie retiring in a very relatable post. We'll talk about Dave Portnoy being banned, quote-unquote, from Ohio Stadium, Lee Corso's last show, and then just some final words before we go off into week one right after this, so stick with us.